Have you ever said, I can never be a victim of fraud? Are you like, okay, hearing about all the various types of scam happening, fraud cases, and you're like, this can never happen to me? How did they let that happen to them? You want to listen in for the next few minutes as we talk with our expert today, Darlene. And Darlene is from Scam Prevention International. She has over 37 years of experience and she has seen people being scammed worldwide, lost various valuables. She has seen the heartbreak. So I'm so thankful that you came on today, darling, to share with us. It's very timely. Well, it's always timely, but especially timely since October is Scam Prevention Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? So thank you so much again. And she's here today to get us more aware, educate us, and of course, let us know the steps to take to really minimize this impact or us being a victim. Do remember to state where you're from. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and remember to share this broadcast. Thank you again, Darlene. I want us to start first off with examples of recent fraud. One of the things I've seen from my end, I've seen an increase like in persons sending me texts like you won this or click here, that kind of thing. So you are seen it all. So you're, having your eyes on the ground, as they say. So what are
Yeah.
some of the examples you're seeing of recent fraud? What's like the trend now? Let's hear.
Mm.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much. It's for this opportunity. With it, like you say, it's very timely with it being October, being Cybersecurity Month, and I just think it's really sad that there has to be such a month that that a
True.
whole month, not even just a day, but a whole month.
Yeah.
Um, and I always say that scam prevention is, in my opinion, the best kept secret because people don't want to
Hmm.
share it, they don't want to talk about it, and like you said, people are always saying, "I would never fall for that. My friends wouldn't fall for that, so I don't need to share."
Yeah.
When they see a feed about it on their internet, like they don't share it. It's just like, I get them now when people see them, but it's like I don't see that they shared it with their friends. So um,
Yeah.
it is. It's the scammers and the hackers. They are worldwide. They are there to the scammers are there to get you in any which way they can. Like they are looking, and I have to tell you, this is prime time for scammers. And just to give you an
Hmm.
idea of what it's like worldwide, this year, 2021, scammers have taken $6 trillion just in this
Wow.
year worldwide. $6 trillion.
That is
That
crazy.
I
Yeah.
can't envision $6 trillion, but
Yeah.
I
Oh, that's
can
alarming.
envision $190,000 a second. That's how
Hmm.
much they're making. And they're taking it from people like you, from people like me, from businesses. Like it's everywhere. And so people really do need to watch what they're clicking on, and
Yeah.
what they're saying when they're phoning, and what and on the texts, because and now, even with internet, like I just read an article yesterday about people being scammed using voice. And so
Hmm.
what they're doing is people are placing ads, like the marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, or they lost their dog, they have postings up, or they're looking. And so what they'll do is they'll phone the person and
Hmm.
get information about them, and they'll say, well, I don't really know if you really did lose your dog, can you give me more information? And so they're tricksters, like they are gathering personal information to steal your identity. And like I
Wow.
said, prime time is with November coming up and Christmas coming up, the shopping online, those scammers are out full force, because it's going to be Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, and then and then Christmas shopping, and people are going to be in a hurry because, oh, I forgot to get my uncle this, and he's my favorite uncle, and it's, and they're going to shop quickly. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I really encourage people to do is don't just click, when you see a good deal like that on Facebook, and you see a good deal anywhere, really make sure that you go to the URL and make sure, like, the line across the top, and type in the name of the place yourself, because they can do such things as, um, when I'm going to use Amazon because it seems to be a lot of places people shop at.
Yeah, popular. Yeah, Amazon, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with Amazon, they can use the, like, it's no, Amazon. How do we spell Amazon? Amazon, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what the fraudsters do is they replace the O for a zero.
Mm.
So it's
That's pretty
AMAZ
interesting. Yeah.
zero
Mm-hmm.
and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Or
No,
IKEA.
for sure
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, or IKEA, they will replace the I with a small letter L. Like, these are just tricks,
Mm.
things, and so I always say, really make sure you click in the links. Or not, don't click. That's my thing. Don't
Those
click.
the links.
Type it in yourself. Never click. And same thing, I received a text the other day, and it actually used my name. It used my name, Darlene, said, and
Mm-hmm.
it said that I have a charges to pay for my package to be able to come across the border. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
going, and I haven't ordered anything from out of the country. I do order from
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, and I know that I have my shipment coming in, but it was not coming across from the border. Now, if you with Christmas time, you're going to be unsure about your
Exactly.
where your packages are coming from. So really never click on those things. You have your tracking number when you're ordering something. Always check your own tracking number. It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy. And if you're not sure about a link and it's such a good deal and you just can't pass it up, there are it, it
And
tends
that
to
happens
happen.
a lot. You're like, it's too, I gotta get this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just need to get it. Like, it's like $100 off or 95% off, or
Yeah.
and so there's a link that a person can type in, and it's called URL void. And so
URL void. Okay.
URL void,
Yeah.
and it's a website, and it'll tell you whether the link you have is a, a valid website. And
Oh,
so
that's great to know. Yeah, please put that in the chat after first, darling, because that is very helpful. Because sometimes, for sure, it's hard to really tell, right? Like
yeah,
those examples, the name looks familiar, it looks the same, and then you're just clicking away and stuff. So, one of the
yeah,
things though is that they sometimes are tracking your patterns because I know with a lot of analytics, Amazon, a lot of the big stores, they use various analytics. You shop here, they can, they use their thing to trace you. And, is it that they are tapping into these ways of analysis and gathering data too, the scammers?
they they a lot of it is through, like, robocalls, or they just have numbers,
Hmm.
and it's not anything that Amazon is doing wrong. It's just
Yeah.
they have robo calls, and they're just putting those in, and it's all done by robots. Like, it's not someone doing it, and it's not Amazon doing it on purpose. It's someone who knows that these are the things that they can do, and get away with it. And I always say that, it's usually you can tell because they have poor um, poor grammar,
Yeah.
misspelled words, misplaced punctuation. and broken links. So should you happen to click on a link and it does look like something that, like if you clicked on a link and you thought for sure this is the place I was shopping, but it's not going to the place that it's supposed to, I always say just shut your computer off like immediately so
Yeah.
that you can't. And one of the other ways that a lot of people's numbers are out there because of ransomware. A lot of the big companies, like I know in Calgary, our University of Calgary was ransomed, and so and they paid the fee that was there. So my information is out there for scammers to
Mhm.
use. And there's places like Puma, like the running shoe people, and there's a lot of big companies whose data has been stolen. And so
Oh.
this if you think that your information isn't out there, chances are it is.
Yeah.
um, and I'm sorry to say that. And so I really, really encourage people, make sure that your computer is protected. Like make sure
Mhm.
that you do have software that is protecting you, that you have software that is going to block when you're using your devices when you're not at home and it's not secure. There are different places where you can go to. Like I know when with so I use the internet service provider that I use provides me with a software package for internet protection. But and all these years I thought I was being protected in all the different ways, but I wasn't. So you really, when you're purchasing any kind of package, you really need to make sure that you do have a VPN, that you do have, that you do have a VPN is virtual private network,
Oh,
and that
okay.
you yeah, and that you do have real time notification if somebody is using your identity. So if they're using
Mhm.
your passport number, if they're using your bank account, credit cards, anything like that, and also that you have your webcam. I know people. I've heard people putting their phones in rice because they're afraid that in different things because they don't want people to hear their private conversations, and there's prevention for that, and that's the webcams and the microphone blockers. And really, you need to find like to have your digital fingerprint scrambled, and that's what you really need. You need to have your computer protected. And I do have to say, if a person is working from home or their child is going to school, they really need to protect their information. And I will say, if you are working from home and you have children, the two should never, your children, your spouse, your anybody should not be using your work computer, because if you're a
Mm.
small business, you're self-employed, all it takes is to have one of those USB sticks stuck in your computer, and you could have malware, you could have a virus. Like there's just so many things that could happen. And I truly recommend to have a separate computer for work, because people have an obligation to protect their clients
Mhm.
from identity theft as well.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's an important thing that you stated in terms of, the a lot of the misconception is there that okay, I might not be on a website or I might not be on the internet, but your information is there, right? Out there, and they can get it from various sources, your phone number, they can track how your lifestyle is. And it's pretty scary, or it's like alarming that, you can be so exposed, even though you try not to be. So that's really, that key thing that you highlighted there. The other thing I want you to touch on though is that, you know, it can never happen to me, or, so a lot of people will say, how could you give them your phone number? How could you do that? But what are some things that you should really look for that are not obvious when you're being scammed or hacked? Because persons will get a call like my mom got one from the border here, they're coming to get you, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
some persons will say, get scared, and some will say, okay, that's, it's a fraudster
Mhm.
attempt. However, what are some of the not so obvious, just a few probably not so obvious things that you can get quickly tricked without even realizing you're on your guard, and
Yeah.
it can just happen. You're like, oh no, I can't believe that happened to me.
Yeah, yeah, and it does happen. And so, with people calling, and these are, and it's unfortunate. Like I can give you an example of a friend who did answer the phone, did answer a phone, and did receive the CRA message, the Canada Revenue message, stating
Yeah.
that they're going to come and get you because you didn't, they're going to send the police, because you haven't done your taxes, and you need to
Yeah.
call them right away. And like so many of us know that it's a scam because people do talk about that one. But my friend who didn't hear about those kinds of things had, not, like, she always paid her taxes every 2 years. I mean, just every 2 years she always did them. And
Mhm.
so this was the second year, so she didn't do them. And so she did, believe that called the number back, and like the number that's given. And so she was, out $10,000 because she paid them $10,000.
Oh,
if
that's
you're answering a call, like, say for instance you did order something and it's overseas, and you do
hmm
call the number, never call the number that's given to you on the phone. You could
okay.
always, call the place itself. So if it's customs, then you can phone those numbers yourselves. You don't have
hmm
to. Never call the number. Or if you're, I'm going to say, behind on your credit card payment, in this day of COVID, people are
Yeah.
behind on their, and people, and there are scammers calling people saying, you need to pay this, you need to pay the full balance, and the people call the number that they are given.
Yeah.
And so, but they should call, I'll just say MasterCard as an example. Just use phone MasterCard directly. Don't call the number that's on the voicemail. And
hmm
when somebody phones you, I always say, if you don't know the number, probably it's a good idea not to answer it, because if you do answer numbers that are, um, that you don't know, they'll be able to know that this is an active number, and then that
Yeah.
number gets sold higher up. And so they,
hmm
until it keeps going, and then and absolutely do not engage. As soon as you know someone is not the real person who they say they are, hang up. Because
Yeah.
what happens is they keep you on the line to try to get more information from you. And
Wow.
there's a lot of people I know who say, well, I'm just going to tell them off, and I'm going to keep them on the line, because if I'm keeping them on the line, then they're not, they're not harassing and scamming somebody else, because I know they're scammers. Meanwhile, they're getting information from you, like there's little bits and pieces of information that they're getting from you. So I just say hang up.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's a valid point because you're like, okay, I'll play along with this game, but in playing with the game, you are getting even more and more into this hole with them, and then they can probably record your voice. There's just so many things just happening right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And,
So
yeah. And
quickly,
one of the
before you
things that I
tell us
do
about,
like to,
yeah, go ahead.
the one thing that I think is really important is when someone calls and says, hi, is this Darlene Petrie? Never
Yes.
say yes. Or sometimes they'll say, hi, I'm calling for, and then they'll say, could you please tell me how to say your name? And
Yeah.
so, and so you say, well, it's Darlene Petrie, or they'll say, is this Darlene Petrie or whatever, and you'll say Darlene Petrie, because
Yeah.
they've said your name wrong intentionally, because then now they have a recording of your voice that they can use to scam and other people or other organizations. Or and never ever say the word yes. If they call and say, if they get my name right and they say, is this Darlene Petrie, I'm like, who are you calling? I never
Yeah.
say, it's like, who did you call? So You have to answer the question. So never say yes, never give your name, never give information to people you don't know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it's, they say that it's your credit card company, just say, you know what? I have the number to my credit card company. I'm going to give them a call and hang up. Don't even give them an opportunity to say anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know because like there it's just constantly having to be on your guard because you just never know because these examples that you've given they're so subtle. You can just, oh, this is that's not my name or my name is that, and before you know it, you've been engaging and stuff. So those are just subtle ways that you can definitely get caught. So
Yeah,
this is such a huge topic. And I know
it
there's
is.
so many different types of frauds and scams. And the sad thing is that there's always that ongoing effort to get more sophisticated from the fraudsters. They're always
Mhm.
finding how can I do better? How can I get more advanced? And it's just as entrepreneurs, business owners, CEOs to constantly be seeking ways to improve your protection against these areas and being a victim, right? Because that it's just like it's never like what you did a few years ago is going to work now, or as your business changes, those things need to change as well. So, what are some of the ways you can support business owners, companies, darling? Because I know and do talk about it too. Sometimes I've heard the smaller scale, the smaller size business owners, they're like, oh, I'm not too big. I don't need to be concerned about that. That's for big corporations. And there's
Yeah.
this false sense of security that I'm fine. So I will definitely talk about that as you talk about ways in which you can support the smaller ones and the bigger ones as well, because this is something that's across the board impacting everyone, individuals, businesses, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And it is, I have to say, I know people do believe that it's all the big corporations that are getting scammed, frauded. And that's because those are the ones you hear about. But there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
smaller businesses that you don't hear about. And because smaller businesses don't want it advertised, they don't want you to know, they're embarrassed that they were,
Yeah.
and they're feeling ashamed, and they don't want to lose the trust of their clients. And so the scammers are picking on smaller businesses, just so
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows. And that's because they feel that the smaller businesses don't have the same protection as a bigger organization has.
Mm-hmm.
And the newly trained scammers need to start from somewhere to be trained.
Yeah.
So as they're being trained, they are learning from what they can gather from smaller businesses. And so what they usually assume is that the smaller businesses don't have the protection the same scale as larger businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And so the smaller businesses, and also NGOs, the nonprofit organizations, are
Mm-hmm.
also a target for the scammers, especially because they know that they can gather a lot of big ticket item people who
Mm-hmm.
do give a lot of money from those, and so they get that information from the smaller businesses as well. And so they know, because even if you're a smaller business, you could be having a large clientele, or you could have a clientele that has a lot of money. And so you really, smaller businesses do need to invest in proper protection, proper internet protection, proper networking, and again, to make sure that they do have an encrypted document vaults where they're
Mm-hmm.
going to store their information, that they don't store all of their information on their devices, that they do have, and everything should be password protected, and everything should be like, don't use your children's name and birth date. And I have to tell you, I used this. There is a site that you can have your password to see how often it's been used. And so I used, and I'm going to say, I can say this out loud because I don't use it anymore. I used my grandson's name, who's Matthew,
Yeah.
and I used it since he was 18 years old. Now he's 20, so I used it for 2 years on some document stuff. And I checked that and found out that Matthew 18 has been used as a password 393 times.
Wow.
And so that is a common password. So if anybody has, so don't use, don't use names, mix it up. I received good advice from someone. If I still want to continue using Matthew, then, mix up the letters, and like you can use the letters, but make one capital, one smaller. Change the number
Yeah.
three, or the E to a three. Like really make sure
Mixed
your
up.
mix, yeah, like it
Yeah.
just, if you really insist or have a bad memory like I do. But there are, places where you can store your, there are protection places where you can also store your passwords as well. And so, like the
Mhm.
login encryption and password vaults, like those are available for people too. So
Yes.
there's
And yeah, go ahead, Danny. Yeah.
like there are a number of different protections that people do need to take as business owners as well.
Okay.
And mostly I'd say, like even if you have the highest, most sophisticated internet software that's going to protect you, it's usually human error that's going to get it. And that's, it's like letting your children use your work computer, letting
Mhm.
them put in their USB. Mom, I just need it just for a second. I my
Yeah.
computer's upstairs and I just need to print this off. I'm going to be late for school.
You just
No.
got to do that.
Yeah, like
And then it hits. Yeah.
yeah.
So the definition from across the board, most small businesses are usually under 5 million, less than 100 employees. So I do want our listeners to remember that you might be like, okay, I'm just having this revenue, but you are at risk because, that's a sizable amount of money in any currency across the board. So it is really important. So what are some of the ways you support business owners? They might be listening on and they might be, I don't know where to start. I do get that. Or, I think I'm secure. They might need a second set of eyes from you to say you are not secure because, it's always good to get reviews and second set of eyes on what you're doing. So how can you support business owners, CEOs, companies?
So we do have some products that we do have for small businesses
Mhm.
and individuals, that do have like the antivirus and the virtual private network, the VPNs, the ad blockers, and that do have all of the things that I talked about. We
Okay.
also are connected with, we partner with an organization that will check your computer to see if what you do have, what you did purchase, does what you
Hmm.
think it does. So it's always good to make sure that, if you're buying a package, you really want to make sure that it's doing what you say it's doing, because sometimes
Hmm.
certain pieces of it can fall off. I have no idea how, but you buy something, I guess it gets old, and if you don't update it, and that's one of the things really um, on your iPhones, not well, on your Androids or iPhone, and any of your devices. If you're not, and same thing with businesses. If you have a section in your business that you're no longer doing, and that website is not used, you have to make sure that you close that off, because
Hmm.
scammers can be using that particular site for doing business for themselves. And
Mm.
I always challenge people, by the time the conversation is over, everybody dig out your smart devices and delete 5 apps that you don't use, because those are also ways that
Oh,
scammers can get into, getting you information from you. So if
that's
you're not
interesting.
using the
Yeah.
apps, delete them, and it'll save,
Mm.
you'll have more room to take more pictures on your phone.
Yeah, and I know with having kids, we take a lot of pictures and videos, so definitely you could relate to that. So how can persons find you, Darlene? I know what's the best way that you prefer for them to reach out to you? What are, I mean, they're listening on, we're on different platforms here, YouTube, I'm streaming on Facebook too, as LinkedIn. So what are the best ways for persons to reach out to you?
Okay. I think if people, are in the midst of thinking that they are being scammed, I am available by phone.
Or phone?
And if they're out of the country, if it's in a different part of the world, I do have WhatsApp. So my phone is, the +1 587
Mm-hmm.
432 6198. I have
Mm-hmm.
email, which is Darlene at scampreventioninternational.com. And I also have a website, which is www.scampreventioninternational.com.
Mm-hmm.
I like to call it what it is.
Exactly. We can't miss the meaning there. So
No.
do leave it in the chat as well, darling, because some persons they'll just want to see it. They don't want to. They just want to see it and click or call. So do place all that information in the chat. And thank you so much for sharing this wealth of information with us today.
No,
And
thank you so much.
to those listening in, do remember to share this broadcast. This is a very, very, very important area. We're a community. It's impacting everyone. So it's so important for us to get the information, this knowledge out there so we can protect our assets, protect our identities, our money, so much more. So thank you so much. And if you do have any questions, guys, you can put them in the chat or reach out to Darlene directly. That's quite fine too. So we will be signing off now. And thanks again. And do remember, you can be a victim of fraud. It pays to focus on preventing fraud. Like prevention is better than cure, as the saying goes. So let's work together to minimize our risk of being a victim of fraud and scams. Bye, guys. We're signing off now. Okay, I think we're ended.